Hey everybody, welcome back to When Creatives Thrive, a Create Baltimore podcast. I'm Stuart Rustin. And before we get going, remember to like, comment, follow, subscribe, whatever you can do to help us continue to tell creative stories. On this episode, we feature Jamaal Feedy Jackson, a textile artist based in Baltimore. Feedy's venture into art began in 2021 while searching for a creative outlet during the pandemic. A simple video of tufting on social media inspired him to experiment with yarn and consider a new method of self-expression. Initially designing rugs based on popular images, Feedy has since elevated his practice by designing and creating detailed, abstract portraits that explore complex human emotion and perception. His commitment to his craft has led to early recognition, including his first sold-out solo art exhibition at Monument Sotheby's, as well as participation in Art Basel. Hey, Feedy, welcome to When Creatives Thrive. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Hey, so let's start by talking about some of your recent success, some really awesome moments that I got to see on Instagram and that you've been sharing on social media. Let's talk about Art Basel a little bit and how you ended up there.
Yes. So Art Basel, that was an amazing experience. So that came across, I had a friend of mine, really great friend of mine named Chris Simon. He purchased maybe 3 of my art pieces before. And he just reached out maybe a week prior and says, hey, I have an opportunity for you to display your art. So at first we were trying to figure out how to ship art pieces there. But it just so happens that my exhibit, my first solo art exhibit, was ending that Friday. So I reached out to him and I said, hey, how about we just display 2 art pieces that you have at your home to make it easier? So he's like, that's even better. So it made it easy for me. Just at that point, now I just need to show up.
Yeah.
So Art Basel was really amazing. It was at a beautiful hotel down in downtown Miami, Culture House, amazing organization. And it was just amazing. I met so many people. The good and bad thing is that the 2 pieces were already sold because so many people wanted to buy them. But I'm not remaking them. But it was a great opportunity to meet so many potential collectors, many potential people.
It's huge.
And I also had an opportunity to speak at Jack and Jill organization. I'm recently found out about Jack and Jill maybe about a year or 2 ago. It's a local organization. Well, it's not just local, it's national. All over, they have different chapters. So there was a chapter down in Miami where they had an art gathering for the teens that are a part of Jack and Jill. So I was able to take my artwork there and actually talk to the kids. There was an art show.
Way.
Yeah, it was amazing down there. Yes, we had a great time.
And such an awesome problem to have that the pieces were sold already.
Yes.
But also super cool that you had somebody who was willing to kind of come to your aid at that moment when you really needed it. And something that struck me from the first time that we connected was this sort of idea of your network showing up for you. It seems like people are really, really invested in making sure that you continue to excel. It also sounds like you're cashing in on some karmic energy from over the years.
Yes. So actually, I had an artist talk at my art exhibit, and at the end, I said pretty much there's equity in being a great person, right?
Yeah.
I've met so many people along the way over the years, and the way they're showing up for me, it's been amazing. It's been like, I feel like the way that they've been showing up is kind of my liquidity of, being, a great person. Pat on my back, I will say that. But, it's kind of, it get emotional at sometimes because, you're just like, it's just overwhelming. It's like, wow, like so many people are just showing up. Yeah. When I did my art exhibit, I wasn't sure, if any, because I didn't sell anything for a year as I'm planning for it. And, I wasn't sure who was going to show up. And it's been really the word of mouth. Yeah. It's been people speaking, about my art and about just not my art, about me and other rooms that I'm not in. And, that's the part that I truly, truly appreciate. And I'm also extremely appreciative because every time this happens, I always reach out to them. I appreciate you speaking on me and my art, to other people, because a lot of people that came to my art exhibit, they came on behalf of someone else that told them about it. So that has been so special for me. That's really been helping me, like really the network. I guess the coin is your net worth, it's your network or something like that. But
I've heard that, yeah.
it's really true, because it's like so many people that I come across, and when I've been genuine to so many people for over the years, it makes it easy for them to speak about you and to network for you. So that's been so a blessing for me. Yeah.
Let's take it back to the beginning, because I want to hear a little bit more about how you got going in working in textile, working in tufting. When did this all come about?
So this actually started during the pandemic. So I work in cybersecurity, and I just started a new job, maybe that December, and by March we were working from home. I'm more of a person that, I like to be around people.
Yeah.
So, I didn't like working from home. So being work from home, I had to change one of our rooms into an office. And, for me, I needed an outlet. Just getting up, everything was a mundane day. You're going down. Some days you're not putting pants on. So it's like, you're just doing the same thing. And I actually, scrolling through TikTok, I saw someone making rugs. So I'm like, you know what? I could do that. So, I told my wife, I said, you know what? I'm about to start making rugs. And she's like, what? I said, I just needed an outlet. So I ordered a tufting gun, ordered the tufting cloth. I actually had to watch YouTube on how to build an actual tufting frame, because that's the whole process in building your frame. And from there, I just started, making them. I was just making anything, making logos, making portraits, asking my friends what did they want me to make. I actually sort of giving them away early on. I had friends that had companies where I'm just making logos for them, at the same time getting better as I'm making them. So that's kind of where it started. The passion picked up as I started to find myself getting better and better at it. So that's when family and friends are like, bro, I think you should start selling these.
Yeah.
Like, you're really getting good at this. So that's when I'm like, okay. So then I started, my mind was straight into business mode. Okay, well, I'll start an Instagram page, I'll get an LLC. And so there I'm making rugs. So I'm making, like this Lamar Jackson rugs.
Yeah.
I'm making all these different portraits. But, after a while, that wasn't fun to me anymore. So, because a lot of people want the same thing over and over and over again.
Yeah.
So it's like everyone's like, oh, you should make, just stick with like Lamar Jackson, and everyone's tagging them. I'm like, but I don't want to keep making the same thing over and over.
It gets kind of tired.
Yeah. So, and then I've taken commissions where I'm making portraits, and at the same time, I'm teaching myself. I'm on YouTube watching, like, how do I vectorize an image? How do I make it more realistic? I didn't want to make a cartoon image of someone's portrait. And, I'm big on research, so I love to learn. So I'm just up late at night, 1, 2 o'clock in the morning, teaching myself Procreate, Photoshop, everything. So to fast forward, I told my wife, like, taking commissions isn't fun anymore. So, I kind of want to, just make what I want to make, So she coined the phrase, just follow your joy. Like, you don't have to really, you working, you have a job. So you really don't have to do this, for the business side of it. Just get back to your joy. And that's what I did. And it's been history ever since.
Tell me a little bit about the process, though, because I think I've seen some of these videos online.
Yes. So actually, you're making it backwards. So you actually, you have your image, you develop your image, and you actually use a projector to project it onto the cloth. You have to trace the image onto the cloth. So you actually have to do it from the back side.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So essentially, if you stand in front of it, it looks right. But a lot of people flip the image, but I don't flip the image. I just stand on the back side and make it, because I already have reference points in my head on what I need to go. Because a lot of times the image doesn't translate to a textile rug. Well, I don't call them rugs anymore. A textile art. So that's another part of the story.
But that's fair. That's
another
fair.
part, because I stopped calling them rugs. But so anyway, so once I have the image on the cloth, I use a tufting gun. So you put in, you thread it with yarn, and the tufting gun shoots the yarn into the cloth and cuts it. So once and it holds it there, but to hold it there, you have to use carpet adhesive on the back, sort of like glue, if you will.
Yeah.
So once you put the glue, you let it dry. It takes maybe, depending on if you take it outside, let it maybe 48 hours. Then you have to, add a backing to it. So that's pretty much the quick rough and dry process. There's other aspects that I learned, using a punching needle to get the smaller details, carving, get the front side. Like I wasn't carving at first. Some of my textile art pieces in the beginning don't look anything like they look now. Because at first I was more afraid to kind of show, my work because the skill wasn't there. Like the skill is, like I have some pieces that's in my house that look, if I did it today, it will look totally different. But I would never, do it today because I look back at those pieces as part of my journey.
Yeah, of course. They've got to be part of the journey, right?
Yeah, so
you're
it's
never going to learn it overnight.
Yeah. So I've been now about 5 years, at this. So yeah, that's the process of kind of making the tufted pieces.
And some of the, I won't say rugs, some of the art.
Thank you.
started out in a space where you were just vending, right? Like, you were, like you said, taking those commissions, but you were also in spaces like the Farmers Market here in Baltimore, right?
Yep. So that was, when I tell you, that was some great times. I love the Farmers Market. So the Farmers Market, I think I was vending there for maybe 2 years. What I loved the most about the Farmers Market was the people. I met so many people from so many walks of life. And, from vending there, mind you have to be there at like 6 a.m.
Yeah.
And, my household is more like the party house. We're the social house. So
a
lot of times we have parties and I'm going to sleep at 3, but getting up by 5 to get there at 6. That's how much I love the Farmers Market. But, that's when the Farmers Market kind of helped push me to kind of step out there and only make what I want to make, because I would display, your portraits, your basketball, your sports things, and I would also squeeze in, some of my original pieces, and I would see people far away, kind of drawn into my booth. So I would see him, but I'm not trying to make it awkward. So I'm not like looking at them. I'm kind of like turning my head. I'm like, okay, I see it. It's happening. So they start to make their way to the booth, and and then they stopped, and then you kind of, as they're looking at it, the wheels start turning. Yeah. The wheels start turning, and then they're like, oh wait, this is not paint. This is oh, it's a rug. Oh, it's yarn, and I love that part of it so much. I've actually, some of the people I've met, one lady, she has a gallery now where I happened to walk into her gallery and she was like, wait, I met you at the Farmers Market. You're not there anymore. And then we reconnected. And it's like, it's so many people that you meet at the Farmers Market. That's the part I miss. Unfortunately, my art pieces, now that I get them framed, I can't, and, at the price point, I can't bring them. I don't want to keep moving them around to different, vending opportunities. But the Farmers Market was really one of my favorite vendors. I've vended all over in different, smaller venue. Yeah. But that's one thing I do miss about vending is meeting the people. Yeah.
Yeah, I had somebody on recently who talked about the Farmers Market as being less like a point of sale and being more like a forum. Just, just like talking to people, just learning about who they are. And it's a melting pot. I feel like it's something that we don't really get in that kind of way these days.
Right.
Because we're all, stuck to our phones and we're all, sort of experiencing life through this digital format.
Yeah.
Like it's refreshing, I think.
Yes. I used to come home from the Farmers Market so tired. My wife and I would just stretch out on the couch. But when I talked to her about it, I'm like, I met so many people. The joy from it was amazing. So yeah, Farmers Market, I miss it so much. Yeah.
I think it's so cool though that you had that opportunity. You were able to grow and keep finding yourself through that process. What does it look like when you're putting together your art these days? Like, when are you finding time for yourself?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we've turned my basement into my studio for now. I feel like I'm starting to outgrow it, but pretty much, I take, any free time that I have, it gets difficult, because I'm a husband. I am a father with 2 kids that are into sports. This past weekend, we were in Spooky Nuke, Pennsylvania, Saturday and Sunday. But, for me, because it's such a passion for me, I feel like every time I make a tufted piece, I truly get better. And that's one thing that I love about it. I kind of push everything back into sports because I played sports. I played football at Dunbar High School. Woo! So for me, I feel like, you get out of anything what you put into it.
Yeah.
And, me in my mindset, if I'm locked in, grinding,
Yeah.
working on art piece, trying to teach myself different techniques, that's the joy I get from it. But lately it's just been, I'm in my basement, to maybe 1-2 o'clock in the morning, maybe 5 hours a day, just putting as much time in as I can. Possibly I still have my 9 to 5, so I have to show up for that. So, it's just, finding the time. A lot of people ask me, where do you find the time to do it? I'm like, well, when it's your passion, you'll find the time. It's such a passion for me that I find the time. And I think what even pushes me more is the complexity of it. I like complex things.
And besides late nights, have you had to sacrifice anything else to keep the tufting dream alive?
So I've had to sacrifice a little of my social life, which wasn't that difficult. So with my friends, a lot of times it's, hey, we're going here, we're going there. And, they ask me if I'm going, I'm like, I have to lock in. I can't go. I have to finish an art piece. But other than that, it hasn't, and I think that's one thing that the pandemic kind of helped with. When it slowed everything down, I got extremely comfortable with being home. I'm fortunate enough to have a great relationship with my wife that makes, being home even more enjoyable. So, for me, it didn't take, it wasn't a hard transition for me. I'm really my wife always says I'm anal about everything. I'm really into details about everything. So, she knows how, I can sit somewhere and just be locked in.
Yeah.
Even with my IT career, I don't have a degree. I went the certification route. Well, I had to self-teach myself, IT. And she was there for the ride when I'm locked in 2 o'clock in the morning. And she's like, babe, you got to come to bed. But it's, at the point, it's my passion. I'm driving. Like, I really love to learn. And that's what's really was pushing me, is learning. And I'm like, because for me, I feel like the more, time and effort I put into this, the sweeter the reward. So I've really, even with this now, it's like I'm starting, I've been at this now for maybe about 5 years. I feel like over the past year or so is when, I'm starting to see the rewards from the work that was put in, with the Art Basel. I'm starting to see that, but I put in a lot of work over the years to even get to this point from a technique and execution standpoint. Yeah.
Well, it's kind of the blessing, right? Of like you have to spend these crazy hours, middle of the night, tufting sessions to get the work done. But I guess the flip side is like you've got call it maybe a safety net of having that 9 to 5 so that the art doesn't have to drive you to pay the bills.
Yes.
It's just for you.
Yes. And I am so grateful and I'm blessed to be in this situation.
Yeah.
With having a great job that I still truly enjoy.
Yeah,
it's not I'm trying to get away from it. So I'd still, even now, there are times when there's a project that I'm working on that pulls me away where I have to stay up after hours to, work on the project and not the art. So, it's really a huge blessing. It's also, a blessing to have my foundation, intact at home. My wife and I have a good a team, if you will, within each other, teamwork.
Yeah.
So if I need her to take the kids, hey, I need you to take the kids to practice, tonight because I have to really, focus and lock in. That's never a problem. So for me, it's been a blessing. And, I actually tip my hat off to, the artists that, this is a, full-time thing.
Yeah.
Because, at some point, I find myself, I want to do this full-time.
Yeah.
Because this passion has grown more than my IT passion, So, find myself like, I can see myself doing this full-time.
Yeah.
So that's going to be a point, at some point where I have to make that
maybe
decision.
Down the road a little bit.
Yeah. And I'm pretty sure things will change. The pressure will change. Maybe I need the pressure. Maybe I don't. We'll see when we get there. But right now, I will say it is a blessing, to have my foundation and family and my job where, I don't have to kind of rush, to sell.
Well, your job right now, like the 9 to 5, like I still think working in this cybersecurity, this digital space, like it can be a very creative,
Yes,
working environment too,
Yes.
right? Like you're literally creating things
Yes.
from nothing through the coding or whatever you're
Yes.
doing, right?
Yeah, and it's funny because my wife, she always says, you're kind of like an artist at work. Because,
Yeah.
I work in cybersecurity, but I also work, to go into detail, I work in infrastructure and architecture for our cybersecurity division, well, for the department. And, most of my job is, architecting security infrastructure.
Right.
Using apps, Lucid or whatever, to kind of come up with, data flows, come up with, how different systems are going to connect,
Yeah.
Doing the research and figuring out, putting different things in place to see from a theory, how
gotta
would
be
you
able to sort of
execute it.
Dream that stuff up,
Yeah,
right? Like
so,
it might not exist. That seems like a very creative thing.
Yeah, and it's funny because it's kind of where I have my digital image, and in theory it starts in my mind,
Right.
and then it comes into the digital form, and then it's like, okay, well, now you have to execute it. Now we're past theory, you have to make it come to life in a textile form.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the correlation where and as she's saying, I'm like, that makes so much sense.
It does.
Yeah.
Totally.
Mm-hmm.
What kind of stuff drives you creatively? Like, what are you pulling from? What are you drawing on as you ideate whatever? It starts digitally, on your iPad, but then ends up through yarn on a canvas of sorts. What kind of gets you going?
So honestly, it's a variety of things. A lot of times it's music, it's my day-to-day life, it's my kids. So you'll see a lot in my pieces are a representation of, my culture, Black culture, my lived experience,
Right.
Even down to the title of some of my pieces. I might have been inspired by a song I was hearing by, say, Erykah Badu, and I call it Orange Moon. So, that's what kind of pushed me. And, I'm still, figuring out, what the ultimate story is. So that kind of pushes me.
Are there a lot of other people out there doing this kind of stuff with tufting?
Yes, there are. Locally, I've maybe met 2 or 3 people, that's in this medium. And that's what I love about this medium is that it's so different.
Yeah, it's pretty unique.
Yeah, and and also I'm still learning the whole art world, art history, and you have your textile art. Well, under textile, you used to have your tufted art because there's so many forms of textile art. So for me, in the tufted art, you don't see a lot. Now you see a lot, nationally. Even we were in Miami for Art Basel, as we're walking through Art Miami and the different exhibitions and looking at art pieces, you didn't see a lot of tufted pieces.
I wouldn't think so.
No, you don't. And there's different ways, even within, the tufted community, there's different, execution styles, too, when you like I said, using punching needle and using different formats to get it across. So it's so much to still learn within the tufted space. But it's not a lot of people, and, a lot of people, and they might give it a try and, see like, oh, this is really time consuming. So you have to have, either you're doing this full time or you have to have things in place that allow you to dedicate the time to get better at it. And, like I said, I'm just fortunate enough, to have my foundation be able to support me to get better at this.
I wanted to talk a little bit about something we spoke about last week when we connected. And I think this is an interesting conversation because I think it touches on masculinity a little bit, but also touches upon the materials that you're actively sourcing. But you spoke about, and it seemed like it was a big moment for you when Joann's shut down.
Yes.
And I'm talking to somebody who was playing football.
Yes.
Who is now roaming the aisles of Joann's fabrics.
Yes.
Tell me a little bit more about Joann's clothing.
Yeah, so that was rough. So before before this art journey, you couldn't get me into Joann's.
I know,
You
right?
could not. I was skipping Joann's, going to Home Depot.
Exactly.
But, so, this journey, when I tell you I fell in love with Joann's, I was in Joann's for hours. My wife will call me, you still at Joann's? I'm like, yeah, I'm actually sitting, like, I'm trying to figure out which color. Like, I'm actually sitting with the color pieces, with the different color, and because there's different yarn manufacturers. So it's like, you have your favorites, and, some are, there's different weight size, the color. You can buy the color white, and you have this particular lot number that's on it. But I learned the hard way, if you go back and try to buy the same color 2-3 weeks later, it may be a different shade of white, but it's still marked as the same Blanco white. And, I had to learn the hard way when I finished the piece and realized, oh, there's 2 different shades of white that I didn't expect to be there. So now it's like, you have to buy in bulk there in Joann's. And when I tell you I was so crushed, when they started to go out of business, because like, this is, I don't want to have to go to Amazon, because now I have to go to Amazon, and you can't sit with the colors before you buy. You have to just order in bulk, order a bunch. And because again, you're not ordering directly like from Joann's. You're ordering from you could be ordering from random people.
Yeah, you don't even know. Right, yeah, it's just all through Amazon.
Yeah,
you don't know.
Yeah, so it's like, you want to make sure that what you're getting is legit. And, you got to order it kind of, and now you're praying and hoping that the lot numbers match up. Because I don't know if the people that's selling it even realize that there's the shading could be off. So that's the part I miss so much about Joann's, where you can sit, and actually even with the people, when I'm getting the backing cut, like I had to get it customized and get it cut. I'm speaking with the people that are there, and the one lady, as you go to the checkout counter, I got a cart full of yarn, and she's like, "So what are you making?" And I'm telling her, and then I exchange my Instagram and follow, and every time I show up, we're talking. It was that connection is gone. So now I have to do everything through Amazon, and I'm getting. I'm trying to get comfortable with it, because you have to adapt. Yeah. I tried Michael's, but I prefer Joann's. That's all I'm gonna say.
Fair.
But yeah, so it was crushing for me, because I missed it so much. That was kind of like my alone time, my pastime to get there, and I really miss it. Yeah.
Well, that's big of you, I think, because I have memories of getting dragged to Joann's and wishing I was anywhere else on earth. And I think it's so cool that you've been able to sort of reframe those experiences, and also great that you've had that alone time. I'm sorry you don't have it anymore. Yeah. And
there's some local spots that I can try, but I'll try them at some point. Yeah.
Well, hopefully you can find that kind of human connection again, right? Because it almost sounds like that that experience that you were having at the farmers market, where it was just the connections, right? And it's those stories that you're bringing home, and it's the things that you're learning from other people or you're sharing or whatever. And the local spots, I feel like that human connection is just way more valuable maybe than we realize, as it's all starting to kind of shift digitally, right?
Yes, because I'm really a big Amazon person. I order a lot from Amazon, but it's like when you realize that, you miss that human connection. Yeah. It was great for me, being in Joann's. And then you kind of run into other creatives there as well.
Exactly. Yeah. You can spread ideas, share.
Yes,
share
I've ran
stuff,
into a lot of creatives there. So, that's one thing I do really miss about Joann's. Yeah.
I wanted to pivot a little bit and talk about one of your local showings that happened recently.
Yes.
Tell me about this whole Sotheby's experience. How did that come about? I didn't even realize that Sotheby's locally showed artwork.
Yes.
Like, tell me about that whole thing.
Yes. So I'll first start and say, when I tell you this has all been God's plan for me, everything has just been happening so organically.
Yeah.
It's things where, I don't have to try to force myself into, which has been great
Isn't
so
that
far.
Awesome?
Yes, it's so awesome. And I pray that it stays that way. But I mean, if not, I still understand that you have to make things happen as well.
True.
So Sotheby's came about. So I had, and I'm trying to keep it short, but I had someone that purchased art for me, and their brother wanted one of my art pieces, but he just didn't know which one just yet. So, of course, he tells his wife, and his wife, reached out to me when I posted about an art piece that I was about to release, and she purchased it for him. Well, come to find out, she works for Sotheby's. And I want to give a shout out to Dominique. Thank you, Dominique, for so she kind of encouraged me, to apply for Sotheby's. There's a application, there's a interview process. There's the whole process you have to go through before you get accepted. Mind you, I didn't know anything about the local chapters of Sotheby's. So Sotheby's, as you know, is the art auction house all over the world.
That's how I know them.
Yes, and they also have realty branches all over the world as well, which is smart of them because they figure if we're selling high-end houses, we'll have art. They have a location here in Cross Keys where part of their office building is an art gallery. The first floor,
That's so
second
cool.
floor. Yes.
I had no idea.
Yes. So, I applied, they accepted me, but what they do is they do 3-month art stays. So they'll have an artist display their artwork for 3 months and then they move to the next. So I've known about the art exhibit for over a year, which was awesome because, it took me time to figure out what I was going to make. So when that happened, I was excited. I'm like, I get my very first solo art exhibit. But then the pressure hits. It's like, wait, this is at Sotheby's. Like you really got to show up for this.
I know, yeah.
And then it's like, okay. And then when I come to find out, you're going to be the first African-American artist featured at this location. So I'm like, okay. So I really got to,
the pressure mounts.
Yes. So, like I said, when I found out about that, my first thought process was, let me go in a research mode. Let me figure out, because I'm all about, you don't have to reinvent the wheel if you don't have to. So I'm looking into other artists, seeing how they display, their art at their art exhibits, kind of see
sense.
what stories to make. Because you want to get educated about things. You don't want to be ignorant about it. So, but that's when I realized it's like, I had a block. I couldn't think of anything,
Really?
Because I'm seeing everyone. Like I see some exhibits where every piece kind of was connected to each other and this, and I'm kind of like, but I felt myself forcing myself into a box that doesn't fit me, So then, it dawned on me, the conversation my wife and I had when I first stopped taking commissions. It's like, what, just follow your joy, make what you want to do.
Totally.
So, that's when it's like, what, I'm just going to, I'm going to take this year, make what I want to make. There are going to be certain pieces that connect with each other, some not. And that's when things started flowing. I have a piece in there called Threaded Perspective, something that I was working on for a while. That's of me and my cousin, that told the story about our upbringing and just leaving, the same household, with different perspectives. That's what I call Threaded Perspectives. But I really got into, my groove when I, kind of moved away from trying to, follow the right normal path for, an art exhibit. So once I did that, follow your joy again, it's so nerve-wracking because I was at the point in my career where I was fortunate enough where everything was selling right away. So I didn't want to, which I'm learning that is kind of normal, but I didn't want to advertise an art piece and someone buy it and they can't get it for a year. So I didn't sell it. So I just I was just holding everything, not making anything available for a whole year. So you got to understand when I opened up, the exhibit, I'm like, I don't know if are people going to, come, are they going to like it? So for me, it was like, and I try not to think about that. But I'm being honest. I mean, those thoughts come in my mind, like how are people going to, view my art?
Of course.
So, like I said, I'm trying to get to the point where I just, make it and don't care. But, I was fortunate enough where, when I tell you my network showed up for me, they came, I had two kind of, I had one open for the public art display, and then I had a private showing. And, when I tell you both times they showed up, we were fighting. I think there was a race. There was a bicycle race happening on.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it was a bicycle race happening.
Downtown. Yeah.
And, that's when I had my private showing. And
I'm
like,
God.
and this one
traffic was
it was brutal.
insane.
And I had people, this was more of my people that I've come across that were, for them, it was more about the art than the price. If you know what I mean, it was it was more of my, higher class collectors.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I want to be there. I got to be there on time. But we got stuck in traffic for like 2 hours.
No way.
Stuck, and we were literally on Northern Parkway, maybe
my God.
2 minutes away, but we couldn't make that right to get there.
No.
So, and then it was raining. And as we were at the light, you know, my phone goes off. Oh, you got a sale. One of my highest priced art pieces sold before I'm there. And I'm like, oh my God, it's happening. So we get there and the room is packed. You know, it was a great experience. You know, it was everything. When I tell you, you know, it was, you know, everything that, you know, when I first heard about this, everything that I thought and was hoping that it would be, it was 10 times more. It was there for 3 months. My wife and I, we found ourselves in Cross Keys every weekend at a restaurant. Just, you know, because if you go there, you can kind of see the art out, you know, in the courtyard. So I would sit there, you kind of see the people walk by and they look, and then they're looking, because Sotheby's is open during the day. So in the evening they're closed, but the lights on, so you can still see the art pieces. So yeah, we was there every weekend, you know, just, you know, giving private tours and, you know, going in there late night, just, you know, looking at everything. So it was a great experience.
Do you feel like people still have that experience that they were having at the farmers market, where they're seeing it through the window and they're kind of squinting like, what?
Yes.
What exactly is that?
Yes. Even the lady, the receptionist that worked there, she says that, you know, it's so many people that just walks in and talk about the art. I mean, I was getting emails, people signing up. It's that feeling. Like I said, that's why we were there. Like we were at CC's like every weekend, sitting in the courtyard, and you see the people walk by. That high, like it was one point in my life when I was running every day. And that high that I got, you know, once I got back from running, that runner's high, it's the same high that I get when I see people view my art. You know, it's because they're like drawn in. Because again, you know, when they first look at it, they like, well, wait, this isn't paint. This is something different.
Yeah.
What is it? And then you see the wheels kind of turning, you know, in their mind, you know, what it is. And, you know, now they want to figure out who the artist is, and then they want to have a conversation. So that's why I always say, you know, my art is conversation starter art.
You mentioned earlier, though, that, you know, you were running all the time. You were kind of searching for this high that even like these kind of sales, right? Like there's this kind of high that you get off of it. But you also kind of strike me as a pretty mellow, kind of down to earth person as well. Like, how do you balance those two things? Because I guess success is maybe different for everybody, but there must be kind of these ebbs and flows, right? Like,
so I will say, you know, what's been helping me is that, you know, I'm kind of running away like, I don't want the fame aspect of any of this. You know, I kind of, you know, I just want to make the art.
Right.
You know, so for me, you know, I don't, it's I guess it's just my nature to kind of be, you know, laid back, you know, mellow. But with my friends, it's funny, I always say with my friends, my close family friends, they would tell you, oh, what? He's the most crap talking person that I know. And it's like, well, there's no humble bone in him. But, you know, I'm like that with people that I know.
Yeah.
You know, so for me,
you know, feel comfortable with.
Yeah. And it's and you know, I know I've had my ups and downs in different areas, and I know as easy as things come, they can go.
Yeah.
So for me, I don't want to get caught up in the noise. You know, I want to just stay focused and getting better at what I'm doing, getting my messaging across.
Yeah.
And still learning. You know, there's still so much to learn, you know, in this medium, in art in general. Like for a while, I didn't even want to call myself an artist because I always felt like it's so much I need to learn, you know, because I'm going a different route. I'm not going, you know, the educational route. So now I'm kind of learning on the back end, you know, different aspects of art history. And I feel like, you know, in any industry you get in, you want to, you know, you don't want to be ignorant. You don't want to come in with this arrogant, you know, mindset and not try to understand the industry, you know, when you have the chance. You know, I don't want to come in and just like, well, I'm killing it over here. I don't care what anyone else is saying. It's like, no, I want to learn and understand, you know, the art industry, you know, because there's so much to learn, not in this medium, in art all over. So, yeah.
What about now, though? Do you feel like you would consider yourself an artist?
Yes. So it's, you know, for me, you know, I also think sometimes my humbleness can get in my own way.
Yeah.
A lot of times where, you know, I want the work to kind of speak for itself, you know, not necessarily me. So a lot of times where it's so much where I want to learn, you know, so much more, and, you know, it's difficult for me to kind of get out of my own way sometimes. So, even the art pieces that I created earlier on, they didn't show the way I wanted them to show from my mind because the execution, the technique wasn't there just yet. So now that it's there, I can confidently say, especially now that I've had my first sold out solo art exhibition, that I'm an artist.
But maybe you've been an artist all along.
Yeah. I'm discovering a lot about myself. I recognize a lot of people. They went through some tough times during the pandemic.
Yeah.
For me, being able to sit still during the pandemic and kind of figure out, just sit still with my life.
Yeah.
I was able to discover this art journey. Things that was in me that I didn't realize was there.
Yeah. So what's next for you, Feedy?
That's a great question. So for me, I want to continue to, be prepared. As I said earlier, this has been God's plan.
Yeah.
A lot of, the opportunities that's been opening up for me, they've come out of nowhere. I don't want to really say nowhere because, I've been putting the work in as well. But I want to just stay prepared for whatever's next. I am, working on some international things coming up. I don't want to, I just found out about a couple of days ago, but I don't want to, spoil it too soon. But I also just want to continue to get better. Like I said earlier, continue to, find better ways to, tell my story, to tell, to get better at my execution.
Yeah.
I feel like, a lot of times, people will, artists that I'm learning, they're really, really great creatively, but they put more effort in the creative side than the execution.
Yeah.
And it's like, you want to really, pay attention to. I feel like I've gotten really, really good at the execution. There's still things I want to learn, but also I want to get back into the, getting off, the creative. I want to learn more about different techniques. Again, I'm still learning Procreate. I'm still learning Photoshop. I'm still learning all these different ways. So for me, it's so much to learn in this field. And it's also, the time management. So a lot of it's, everything's kind of been happening so fast. So, this year I want to get back to, finding the time to continue to, strengthen my education and my understanding, of the art world. But, hopefully hopefully I can get another solo art exhibit in next year. Because I will say that is a high that I'm going to continue to try to chase, because that was a great feeling, to have the people out and sit and talking to everyone about my art pieces. So hopefully that should happen next year as well.
Well, Feedy, it's been awesome chatting with you. I am sure that you will keep on hustling.
Yes.
And hopefully we'll have you back soon.
Yes, hopefully. I appreciate it. Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks so much to Feedy for joining the podcast, and thanks to you for listening. Remember, if you're a creative person with a story to share, reach out to me at srustin@promotioninarts.org to be featured on the pod. And as always, when creatives thrive, we all rise.